First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody to, this is a roundtable. It is not a presentation. It's collaborative, interactive. We invite anybody and everybody to ask questions, participate as much as you'd like. This is based on women in architecture, and Whynde is one of the co-founders of Women in Architecture, which is an association I belong to. It's free for everyone, male and female, and I'm a big advocate of this in the United States, as Whynde's from the United States as well, and Norway. But she will talk a little bit about women in architecture, how you, what it's about, the vision, the mission, how you can get engaged. But what we wanted to do was talk about exploring the skills and the roles for women in architecture for the next decade. I've been an enterprise architect since 2007. I've been a chief architect, not that long, but a long, long time. And I was also the president of the Federation for Enterprise Architecture Professional Organizations in the United States. So I've led a lot of EA organizations, and I'm always trying to promote women in architecture because there are not a lot of us. So we were discussing this as a topic, and we decided that, maybe we could just have a roundtable and invite women in, and then have an expert panel, which we have. So we have Whynde Kuehn, who is, I know Whynde for a long time, but she is a co-founder of WIA. She's an author, soon to be published for her second book next week. She's a pioneer in business architecture. We have Mario Michaels, who's here. So Whynde is from the United States and Norway. New transplant up there. We lost her. Mario is the founder of Synaxa, which is very game-changing way for talent, what I call a talent producer. You do connect the dots for architects and the talent pool and companies. And he's just got such a refreshing approach to hunting talent and finding it. And he does a great podcast. We have Leslie Robinette, who also an American that left us and went to Paris. Now she lives there. But she's the corporate services director and the CSR ambassador at Mega. And also an expert in enterprise architecture for 20 years. And then we have Dr. Selman Deniz Ankul. Yes. Okay, originally from Istanbul, and now she's in Germany, and she's the head of EA for corporate for EON, and she did a great presentation earlier this morning. So I think we have a good mix of experts, right? And I'm going to kick this off with talking about WIA for just a few minutes, and I'd like Whynde to describe or tell us about WIA, how it came about.
Absolutely, sure. So WIA, Women in Architecture, is a global movement to create an equal balance of men and women in architecture. To be clear, we think we need a lot more architects, and what a great place to source them than women. So it's really about helping women who are in the role thrive and bringing more women into the field and creating pathways for women in the future, right? So even thinking about schools and university and things like that. To be clear, Women in Architecture is named after the result we're trying to achieve collectively, which is, like I said, more women in architecture. It's for men and women equally, right? And I think that's one of the most exciting things we've seen as both men and women around the world are really rallying around this and are very passionate. So this is something that we're all doing together. So like I said, long-term pathway building and then more shorter-term things. So some things we focus on now are, and we're still just getting off the ground, right? We've been around for a year. Yeah, we've been around for a year, but we started by really trying to build interest in the idea and awareness. So we're still doing more awareness building. in bringing together a community. So we have a space, like Jean said, it's free. You can come to this Mighty Networks community where we have regular meetings and other opportunities there. There's a job board that you can post within that as well. We're also moving on to mentoring and more corporate interventions, so trying to actually, help organizations through the process of building more diverse teams. So,
Great.
I have 2 questions. Can I ask my questions?
Sure.
Okay, first question is, do you guys collaborate with existing associations such as the Society of Women Engineers that I knew closely when I was in school, but I don't know if there are other ones in other countries that are strongly trying to, not just specifically architecture, but women in tech and women in engineering kind of approaches? That's question 1. I'll let you answer question 1, guys, before I have question 2.
yeah. Really good and really important. And in fact, one of our principles is that it is collaboration, actually. We are not trying to reinvent this space or become experts in it. So we're still building, but we have some partnerships, like we've done some things with Sim Women, for example, in the US. We have so many more partnerships. We have just from so many angles, right? From girls in IT to, these different groups. So we need to do more partnership building, but it's definitely in our DNA and plan to do more of it. Yeah.
Well, cool. I volunteer for the SWE because I used to be really active in it. So if you want me to reach out to people for Virginia Tech, SWE.
Write that down. We got her.
My next question is, a smart move is to learn from the past and see how can that help us do repeated success. And so I consider when you talked about pathway, you said it more than once. A pathway is not just something, it's there, and thanks to the fact it's there, you can trace it, and it's nice. There's something that comes from the person that lets them walk that path. So there's things coming from inside, kind of, I guess, the French philosophers, they were like against each other between Voltaire and Rousseau. I'm born with who I am versus I'm constructed by my environment, whatever. Okay, sorry, I love French philosophers. But I think it's a mix of the two. So I think it'd be cool for us to talk about us here, but also maybe in the audience. We're examples of women in architecture that's a success. Okay, you're not a woman in architecture, but you're an example of women in architecture that's a success, okay? Yeah, no, but I'm saying that success is, what do you believe in you, maybe it's a hard skill or a soft skill or a personality trait that allowed that to be a path you could take and that would be a path of success? And what are some external environmental factors? Oh, this type of training in school or whatever, I'm not going to give all the answers because then you don't answer the question, but made it so that path was possible for you at a time when no one was making it easy for you. And if we can hear and think about that, that might help us think of how can we help others trace the path more smoothly. So who wants to start?
Yeah, I can start.
Okay.
As a background, I graduated from industrial engineering, and this is a discipline that merges the engineering with, I think, the processes, the industry knowledge, which helps me in the following years when I became an enterprise architect. So that's, I think, that I love the technology and the processes and the business disciplines, and I want to have a broad picture. So I decided to move from an IT consulting expertise to enterprise architecture. And what I believe is when it comes to women, we had a sense of understanding the big picture as a talent. And also we are good at communication and collaboration. And enterprise architectures is in them together with the management, with all the colleagues to understand the big picture and to share the big picture with the colleagues so that they can understand and they decide what they need to invest and how the future should be. I think our imagination and the other talents we have, the skill sets we have, this supports that we can become a very successful enterprise architects. That's my experience.
And in your industrial engineering, were you one girl in the class, 3 girls in the class?
Yeah, 6 actually among 30. Better than computer engineering, but still it is less than 40%. And also in my company, there are not so many women enterprise architects. But I think, as you mentioned, I think we should invest more on university level, the young talents, so that they can move forward to that path, and they can do it, and they can do it very successfully. So they need to believe that. That's why my plan is to support also my company, my community, the IT community in Germany maybe, to be a role model and to show the young girls that they can be a very successful enterprise architect because they have the skill sets in them, and they can be very, very focused in that domain without any too tech requirements behind. So there is such a idea that sometimes they have fears that IT is so complex, they cannot understand it. But I think enterprise architecture is a discipline that the women can be very successful. That's what I'm believing. Yeah. Yeah.
I think from my perspective, I think the first thing businesses need to do is really understand what the role of the EA is from a skills perspective, and then go and find people within the organisation that demonstrate those skills. It might not be technology, it might just be, I don't know, bigger picture thinking or being able to influence people, whatever that may be, and almost have the foundations to then build. I think too often we find architects moving through a very linear career path of, you know, software or infrastructure or cloud, then solutions, then enterprise, and often the skills aren't the same when you make that step up. And one of the biggest challenges I find when speaking to chief architects is they've promoted an EA, and actually that EA is struggling to move away from their domain and provide solutions across the whole board, whether that's business, applications, whatever it may be. So I think the first thing is to really identify the nooks and crannies of the skills required, and then go and identify people within the organisation, and then you start working with HR around talent management and so on, and then come up with a specific architecture program. I believe, you know, they do it in software development with coding camps in the UK. I don't know if they do them in Germany, but coding camps. And I think where they went wrong was they were so desperate to bring in loads of women to do software development that the attrition was really high, because they didn't think about, okay, well, how do we assess these people? Do they have long-term, what's the long-term objective, and are they able to do this long-term, or is this just that we need women doing software development for a box-ticking exercise? So yeah, really understand the skills, put together a program, work together with talent identification, talent management, and then we should hopefully start seeing.
So Mario, could you please tell everybody about that program you're working with?
Yeah, so it's not my program. It's a client of mine who he was on my podcast, and we spoke about it a little bit. Episode 4, I think it was. It's a business called EE in the UK. They're a huge telecoms business taken over by O2. They were quite thought leaders. This was about 10 years ago. They decided to put together like a grad scheme. So they went out into the business and they found people who, firstly, were intelligent enough to be able to do the role. And then they just identified some skills. And then every 6 months, they moved them into different departments within technology. So this was, fair enough, it was sat within a technology underneath the guise of a CIO. But every 6 months, they moved them from software into infrastructure, into network, into data. And then that person would then choose what they're most interested in. So that's where the traditional T-shape comes in now. And then now that person, so we're talking, it was probably about 8 years ago now, that person now, or those people are sort of at that, moving into solutions and trying to provide a more holistic view. But I think that would work very, very well with increasing diversity. I don't know what the diversity stats were, but they certainly increased gender diversity significantly within architecture. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And they fit, and they know that they've got a long-term plan, and it's not just a case of, you know, because I think a lot of people leave businesses because they don't know where they want to be, or they don't know what the path is for them. So if they know, right, I'm going to become an enterprise architect in 10 years, brilliant. You've got someone there for 10 years, as long as there's other stuff that you're doing to help them. So for me, that's bit of an easier route, and I don't think it feels like it's turning the Titanic too much.
It's really smart because I bet, first of all, that generates more respect and understanding for the different roles in the company. So
Yep.
even if one person picks this one, they've seen the others. So when they're working with them, there's
Yep.
more like, oh, I see how that fits in
Yeah.
and how I'm going to respect that person's job.
Yeah.
And probably overall make better quality results because you've got a hybrid kind of foundation on your training.
But also from a relationship perspective,
Yeah.
you know, Whynde spoke about business architecture being the glue to all the different areas. Well, if you've built relationship because you've worked with someone for 6 months, and then you'll go knocking on their door, you know, a year later to say, oh, we need this, can you help me with this? Well, you can cut a lot of corners by having good relationships.
Well, and also I think it paves the way for the collaboration and knowledge transfer. I think that is an excellent framework. I just want you to publish that and then sell it to all the companies, because to me it just makes sense. It's
Logically, it does.
yeah.
You're saying that you identified some skills. You listed one or two, but how are you measuring those skills? So how do you know those are the people who would have them? Is it just because people know their people, or I mean, you have like tests or something? Or?
I think that's a HR thing, to be honest. I think, yes, as a chief architect or head of enterprise architect or whatever, yes, it's their job to identify what skills are necessary to do the job. I think it then becomes around talent, L&D, to identify who has those skills and how you assess them. That's the biggest conundrum because they're soft skills. How do you assess somebody's communication skills? How do you assess somebody's influencing skills? It's not like a coding test that you can give someone at interview stage, and as businesses now move towards more skills-based hiring because the landscape's evolving before us, businesses have got a big challenge on how they assess what the metrics are, how we develop those.
Well, I think you can assess hard skills.
Yeah.
It's the soft skills that throw, right? I mean, there's critical thinking, there's collaboration, there's influencing. You know, those are all, you know, value propositions that are very, very hard to measure.
And as much as it's hard, like, as much as it's hard, like, do you find like the skills and competency frameworks are useful? If you see somebody, right, like on a daily basis and watch them in interactions, like you can actually measure that. It's harder, right? It's not like measuring coding to your point, but you can still assess what level they're at. So I'm not sure if any of you use that.
And maybe I can say that even we may not assess. For example, we have an opportunity marketplace in the company and people just enter their skills voluntarily. And if someone believes that she or he has skills in communication, most probably they are willing to do it. And in time it will develop. And most probably they have potential to do it. So even by self-declaration, I think it is enough because people like, they just want to do programming and never wants to collaborate with others. They never enter this as a skill set. But for the others that are willing to do it, then even self-declaration is enough. And that's a really good idea to, I mean, we have a platform, but we are not using it in that manner, but we can have a look at that as an idea. I catch it. So to find the potentials in the pool, in the company, as we are, for example, a huge company. So that may be a good start, and of course we can think of how to evaluate these in the upcoming
And that
steps,
does
yeah.
go back to job descriptions, role definitions. And I last year alone for 3 companies, I wrote job descriptions for their EA or their, you know, BAs or whatever. And I was like, there's no standard out there. I think the Business Architecture Guild probably has the most, don't they? I thought they had some templates out there.
We should do that.
The guild decided to start with the discipline and what is business architecture and getting that sorted out. How does it connect and how do we use it for value? They intentionally delayed the profession side of it. So there is a business architect sort of role out there, but I wouldn't call it a total standard yet.
It does well from a gender perspective, though. I think 53% of business architects are female. So whatever we can take.
Is
from
that worldwide or is
yeah,
that
well, the locations I looked at
he
was
has great statistics, by the way, just so you know.
UK, States, Germany, France, Italy, Netherlands, Spain, Portugal. So the main players really.
Yeah, the main players.
53% gender diversity in business,
in business architecture.
But you take that out and it's 12%. So across all solutions, software, data, so there's a lot of work to do. Germany's the worst performing country. Sorry. A lot of work to do. I don't know why. Albuquerque's doing really well, whatever they've done over the past year. Yeah, I don't know if is it outsourcing, maybe they're outsourcing to New Mexico, maybe, I don't know. But yeah.
I don't know why anybody would go there. But,
so,
if it works. What about California? I would think California would have the most enterprise architects.
So the top locations for this is all architecture job titles, not just EA. So EAs in general, there's been an increase of 1,500 globally over the past year.
Wow.
Which would signify that businesses are starting to see the value again, because it was cyclical, like late noughties, everybody wanted EAs.
Yeah.
Then the whole ivory tower connotation came along. We're getting rid of EAs. We don't need enterprise level architects. And then now I think
AI and digital transformation is making in compliance is probably driving that up.
Yeah. There needs to be that human factor. But yes. So.
But for women in architecture, not so good in Germany.
Not so good in Germany. But we've got to start somewhere.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You're starting that in your company, so there you go. And you have one of the largest companies in Europe, or in Germany for sure.
Yeah, to be honest, as I mentioned, I relocated to Germany 1.5 years ago, and that's also my impression that there's not so much women all in IT and also specifically in enterprise architecture. As E.ON, we are in a better situation, but still I attended most of the conferences because I try to be involved in the community, especially in Germany. And most of the conferences, we are less than 10, I can say. And even just 2 speakers are among many people are women. But that's why we are here. We are discussing. I try to support that more people interested, more women interested in enterprise architecture. And what I realize is, because I'm also hiring as the lead architect for my team, even I try to make some interviews with the women, I realize that there is very rare applications. So we just need to increase the attention of the people in IT, and also maybe we need to focus on university students so that they can be more interested in these disciplines. So a way to go, but at least I realize that there is such a intention, and people in the community, they are focusing on that topic, so that I hope in the future it will be better, because we will come to that point, I think, but focusing on more data, AI, and business architecture, really we need more talents with these skill sets, and women are perfect when it comes to these fields. Yeah, because we are extending.
What about anybody in the the audience? Yeah.
Yes. I don't need a microphone.
Oh, it's for the recording.
Okay, for the recording.
Yeah, we do.
So, because to me it seems like, so you're discussing now for half an hour, and my basic question would be, like, also coming back to what you just said, like, what would you tell a young talent? What is the job, and why is it attractive? So, kind of, I'm an agile coach. I'm Julia, sorry. So I'm a bit detached from enterprise architecture, so it's a real question. It's not it's not just a.
As enterprise, I think the main advantage of being an enterprise architect is you are close to the strategy of the company. You collaborate with all the different business segments and all the IT departments, so that you can see the big picture. You can be in strategic initiatives. and you have chance to learn many things about the company. So in the other jobs, either in IT or business, you are in just one department and you just learn that part. But in enterprise architecture, you have chance to see the big picture. And personally, I was not an enterprise architect 7 years ago. So for the last 7 years in my career, I am an enterprise architect. Before that, I was working in other disciplines of IT, and I personally decided to move to that discipline, that I don't want to work just in one discipline anymore, and I want to see the big picture. Because at that time in my previous country, enterprise architecture was not so mature, and not in many companies they had teams for that. I established a department in my previous company, and after some years I relocated to Germany and now working in a mature organization. So I feel like I am more with the recent technological developments, because you always need to learn the new things to drive the business with the digitalization, and you are always updated. And as a person in the past who, for example, make IT support, it is more fun to make enterprise architecture rather than IT support, honestly. Yeah.
I also think, yeah, I think it also gives you the opportunity. I have my mic, so I'm good, but thank you. I think it gives you the opportunity to influence the company. So I've been a chief architect for over 20 years, and I've helped companies not only create this technology strategy, but how to enable the business for them to do what they needed to do for their objectives. And that could be from identifying technologies that will help them achieve their objectives and their goals, to identifying ways to save millions of dollars within a month. Like even at Fulton Bank, which is a small regional bank, we went in and did application rationalization. Within 30 days, we saved them $1 million, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a small bank. So for them, it was good. But yeah, I think you can really influence the way people think, the way they operate, the way they work, and certainly the way they purchase and invest for the business. So it empowers you a bit.
I like that word, and I agree. The remarks that I wanted to make, to loop back with the multiple things that we've been saying. First of all, I also did industrial systems engineering, and I think industrial systems engineering and industrial engineering already has a kind of a holistic approach, because you do technical things and functional things, and you see different pillars: process, simulation, IT, UML, all these things. Then you can pull the pieces together. But for men and women, I think enterprise architecture has multiple attractiveness. Okay, one is like the impact. I believe that it's a profession that you can practice that generates actual impact. So it gives you purpose. I think right now, everybody is searching for purpose. Like, what's the point? And so if you're saying doing this for an organization is going to help us be focused about what is it delivering as terms of value inside for those inside the organization, or externally for the end user, the end customer, those are the kind of questions we want to ask, because I think that's what we ask ourselves every day is, what's the point? I would rather my profession feel like I'm doing something real. And it lets you also, very stimulating, like you said, you gain awareness on all kinds of different pieces that come together into enterprise architecture. So other knowledge and skills and people. So it's a very connected kind of profession. So I think that it's not just because women do it right. I think there's a lot of men who can do it right. It's the mixity and the diversity that's going to make a better quality EA team, because it's going to have already EA as a practice is diversity. It's the diversity of lots of different elements that you have to pull together to get something even more qualitative. So that's why it's good to have people who study in America, and other people who study in Europe, and other people who study, all them working together. I love also in the company I'm in, many nationalities, boys and girls, all ages. So when we talk about women in architecture, for me, I'm thinking in my head all the diversity that's required to make the best result.
So go ahead, but after this, I want to move us over to current and future trends and what are some essential skills that we need to have to move forward.
Beautiful question.
Finish that
My WIA, everything you all said, exactly. But you're at the forefront of change and strategy, as you said, and we are designing the organizations of the future. Most people don't see it that way. It's a conceptual thing. We can look up and look at the skyline and see the result of what other architects do. We are doing that for the future. How people use technology, the business models, the products and the services, the sustainability. So it's a really critical role from that perspective. And Leslie, to your point earlier on pathways, I really liked, because pathways aren't just steps. They're paving the way. They're helping inspire people from a very young age about, whoa, that is cool. That's meaningful. I see someone in that role. I can do that. It's possible. Yeah. The see her to be her, I think, is actually very powerful. Yeah.
Yep. So let's talk about future trends in technology, the field of architecture, and what are some essential skills and necessary for women that want to make that jump or move. And since you're the statistics person, where do you see architecture going, enterprise architecture, as far as the trends and the technology? We know AI. Right?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think with AI, there's probably more of an impact an EA can have, because you need to humanize technology, basically. So firstly, being able to articulate the vision using different words to different people, depending on who you're speaking to. I think that's really, really important. Influencing skills. I'm going to go from a soft skills perspective. There's more intelligent people here who do the job day to day that could probably tell us more about the technical side. But from a soft skills, influencing, creating the vision and be able to articulate that vision and at different levels to different people. Communication skills, definitely. But understanding that, I think no matter what, every EA needs to have a customer-centric approach, whether that's the internal customer, whether that's, if it's a B2C organization, the actual customer, and then you work backwards from there, because then that links in to business strategy and what we're trying to achieve and so on and so forth. They're the probably key soft skills for me, unless I've missed any.
Yes.
Yes.
No, I just mean there's so many. Maybe ladies already have some thought.
I can talk about a little bit the technical skill set. So, as you mentioned, AI is one of the recent topics that we need to involve in our enterprise architecture daily work. And when it comes to AI, 3 main roles are in place: data translators, data engineers, and data scientists. Data engineers, they're already close to tech roles, so it is in place. Data scientists with some statistics background on top of some AI tool knowledge, then you can be a data scientist, which is okay. But when it comes to data translator, it is very hard to be a data translator. And enterprise architects already have that skill set because they are building the business capabilities and speaking the language of the business and merging it with the technology language. They have a natural talent to be a data translator. So they can work closely in collaboration with the data teams, and they have already the basic knowledge to understand the processes and to embed the recent technologies, AI models in daily life. So it is very easy for them to propose some future projects for digital transformation, for changing the way of working with the support of AI, and they are one of the best colleagues, I think, that needs to be involved in such initiatives with their expertise. Yeah.
And there's no degree in that. There is no certification in that.
Yeah.
So that's hard to communicate to somebody coming out of college that you need to.
That's why multidisciplinary paths are helpful, like the ones she and I both took, that make hybrid people that understand different technical things without being an expert in each technical thing. And so you can understand the people you're working with and getting that overview. I would add connected to the whole big picture view that you said multiple times, and I couldn't agree more. It's the kind of capacity of the person to have a 360 vision, so that you're not just looking at what's put in front of you, but eyes behind the head, also being kind of active listener, and even putting yourself, you have to be a bit audacious to put yourself in conversations or beside conversations you might not have already been invited, because that's how you're going to get all the elements to propose the best solutions. Going back to AI topic, I think it is responsibility for EA to use our capacity for accompanying the qualification of the use. So AI is the new hot thing, but in the past we have other new hot things. Technology in general, we have to say, not because it's there, we're just going to do it. We're doing it for what purpose? What are we going to get out of it? And so kind of like helping bring focus and purpose to the choices we're making with this new toy without holding back innovation anyways. Just bringing that kind of careful and like managing the awareness around that. The other, so it's a 360. Yeah, that's what I want to say. Yeah, that's what I want to say.
To just kind of add my take and riff off of what you all have said. And Jean, I think a trend is, Leslie, you just said, right? Technology is changing so fast. So there was this hot, and I'm not saying AI is going away, but this thing was hot. Metaverse was really hot, right? So I think just the pace of that is creating a big dynamic shift. And this is not just Whynde speaking. This is even like Chief Architect Forum, that the EA role really, or at least we feel like you have to be like a technology expert. And by the way, that's been a barrier to women getting in this field. I've heard that directly firsthand. But I think what is really important in the skill of the future is to be able to learn technology and to be able to use it for strategic and other purposes. So being able to learn, and it takes the pressure off of having to be a technology expert in specific things. Right. It also emphasizes, right, these soft skills that we're all talking about. So I would also add the, on top of what you all have said very eloquently, the additional kind of competencies are the architectural thinking, like how do I rationalize, how do I think in building blocks? That is a skill set that can be learned and is not always natural. And I think also systems thinking, and I don't mean IT systems, I mean systems thinking as a discipline. Yeah. Exactly. Where what are the cause and effective things? I mean, more than anything as we work in ecosystems, I think we need to have a really good command of that as well.
And that can be learned as well. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we explored, some of the essential skills and roles. What are any questions, by the way, before we move to the next? Yes.
I would have one. Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Leslie. Now, you said before that you referred to technical people developing into an enterprise architect. So, with the skills you just mentioned that could be learned, and yes, some technology is part of it, but it's not a technology expert. So why don't start with business people out of it?
Exactly. Whynde can take that.
No. I'm kind of joking. I really love the idea. And I think that's a very critical bridge. Yep. It's like we go deep in different parts, and there's a spectrum here. But just like the gentleman who said this morning, hey, when he asked me what does a business architect do, he said, well, it sounds like an enterprise architect. Yes, that's how it should sound like, or it should sound more like that strategic side. And getting to, how do we get people into the role, at least from the business architect role, which you can also go into other architect roles. It is business people. Some of the best business architects I've ever seen have been business leaders. They've been strategic planners. So I just think that's interesting. Would love to hear. Yeah, what you guys think.
Earlier you were talking about all the learning, okay? I think one skill that is important to be a good EA is learning quickly, but learning enough. Okay, so you don't, so you don't have to be super technically savvy, but enough, and you do need to interest yourself in the things you're manipulating. So I think there was a whole thing like last year where everybody thought it was super cool. Would the big boss need to learn how to code so he'd better understand his company?
Yeah.
But laughing aside, I think it's important there be a level of awareness whenever you're going to touch on a lot of things enough. And efficiently be able to upskill enough to talk correctly with those people in their language and then pull that into that overall view. but that you don't have, you don't have to have been expertise in there. Quick learner. You have to be a quick learner.
Yeah. Just maybe I can add as an answer, it can be from both ways. Either you can be a tech person but with good communication skills and eager to learn the business processes and become an enterprise architect, or you can be in business with some analytical skills and eager to learn more tech, and you can be a perfect enterprise architect. So it is never mandatory to be in one discipline, but in the end, enterprise architecture is a role which is a little bit similar to CDO positions, like both the technology, the business, and the strategy. So you need to be keen about all these three topics, and you can work in any department, and that's the program they mentioned. So we can even attract some people from business to the enterprise architecture because the pool is so rare in German market especially. So we need to find a way, and that's a really good idea to attract people from business to the enterprise architecture discipline. Yeah.
I was always also thinking about this kind of like pretending I have an enterprise architect in front of me and I'm describing them. Okay, I would say this enterprise architect is not someone who's wants to be comfortable, always the same thing. Like, I want to go to work to put my legs under the table and do the same thing and do it right, and that's safe, okay? You can't be a good EA if you're not okay with sometimes not being safe, going into place, exploring. So it's that audacity and kind of bravery to go into things that you don't know, to go to people you don't know. Sometimes, like I said, you're going someplace you weren't necessarily invited, but you have your reasonings behind it, and it's so that things move forward overall. So people who are looking to be stimulated, looking to be a part of change and driving the change and in it. And I think it's an exciting, wonderful place to be, but it's not for everybody. It's not like the dream job for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely agree. It's like being a doctor or academician or any maybe tech talent that you need to learn every day what is new in digital transformation journey, in business strategies. So it is not like just doing the ordinary job every day. So you need to be keen about learning, getting certified about new things, and a little bit curious about what is going on in the company and in the market. So not just focusing on what is given as a strategy from the top management, but a little bit have a broader perspective, what is going on in the world, in the country, in the market, in your competitors. Yeah.
I think one skill we've not said is resilience.
Resilience.
I think can't underestimate that it's very rare where a business values enterprise architecture, not just to make the initial commitment to go and hire or create a practice, but then to sustain it and have that same level of belief that they did right at the beginning. There's going to be times where you just feel like your own island. IT don't want to know me because, I'm constantly challenging them, and ops don't want to know me because I'm constantly challenging them, and the rest of the business and so on. So you've got to have really thick skin to be a good EA, I think.
Yeah.
You are connected with so many people, but you are a little bit alone in the EA sometimes, huh? Because sometimes, it's a challenge.
So let's talk about strategies on how to upskill or reskill. So that's kind of to your point. How do you upskill or reskill the people you have if you have no budget or minimal budget and you need to expand your architecture team desperately? Because I think as more and more companies use architecture and they get engaged at the PMO level and the strategy level, and even through product management, they'll come down through the pillars and they'll go across. How do we, with limited financial resources, how do we upskill or reskill the resources, the people, into architecture? Any ideas?
May I add something?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's nice that you say with limited financial resources. I'd rather add and emphasize on limited people resources. Because if you have somebody that you want to upskill, you just can't pull that person out of the job for a year, send them on training, send them on courses or things like that. That job still needs to be fulfilled.
Right.
And at the same time, you want this new role for that person also to be fulfilled. So financial limitation is maybe not the key, but it's the HR limitation.
Any thoughts on that?
Since I already have the mic, I'm going to say two things and then I'll put it back out there.
Yeah.
If it's okay. Somebody move their hand? Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay. I'll be really fast. First, hold on. You were saying about people. Okay. I don't know. I forgot what it's called. I'm not good at remembering the names of things. But you know, when you're trying to do your own time management, there's that famous quadrant of what's urgent, important, and urgent, not important. And the things that are important often get left to the side because you're always in the urgent. So I would consider upping your skills is one of those things that tends to be put on the whale side. So it needs to be planned in, but planned in at a certain level. Like you could say it's a 1 half day a week or 2 half days a week that are blocked. Because if you aren't doing that, then it's going to be the future emergency because there's going to be a problem because the person doesn't evolve and they quit the company or they get kind of disconnected. They don't have motivation, so they might be less effective in the current job. So I would say you have to block the time, but it should be a shared amount of time. Something we practice in our company it is a prerequisite that you have a vision on skills. Okay, so you got to follow the skills on the different people, but cross job shadowing. It kind of relates with what you were saying earlier, but we do it proactively. It lets people feel valued for the skills they have when they're shadowing to others, and vice versa. And it's not always the same people. I think it was in one of the presentations this morning talking about kind of legacy and transformation and something about that. But we've observed that more and more, because the world is moving quickly, so we have people that have been with us longer, the more ancient members of the company that have a lot of things to give to the new hires because they really know the company, they really know the history. But the new hires have a lot of things to give to the ancient because they didn't learn that in school. It was some other language, it was some other methodology, it was some other approach. So this isn't just top down like all the experts are telling the little ones how it goes. It's everybody's got something to bring to the table and everybody's got something to pull from it, and it can be practicably without cost, but it does require time dedication and roles. So identifying this is how much shadowing you're going to have each month, this is the time when you're giving, and this is the time when you're getting back, and that there's follow-up on that so you can see how that's really helping make a difference. And even if it's good to do things like workshops and feedback on experience for groups, like we have lunch and learns and things like that, but also setting up those one-to-ones because there's an intimate thing that happens there, and not just, doing recordings and saying, watch this in your free time to capitalize on knowledge. Sometimes there's the collective, but also the individual. And then demonstrating, we do that twice a year, but I don't know how frequently it'd be required, demonstrating that it's changing those skills as we move forward. Like collectively, we're seeing our skills matrix are all public internally, so everybody knows what everybody else knows how to do, but it lets you also go to the people who know what they know how to do, and you can see everything's getting more and more dark green, and it makes us say, okay, together we we know this, we got this, and it helps prepare for the next step. Sometimes it'll even reveal talents we didn't see to evolve into other roles afterwards. So next.
I was going to say, I don't know. So, did you want to go next?
I'm so sorry.
Maybe add something. Sure, please.
I just wanted to share some insights on what we do because we've been trying to expand our EA team for like the last years, and it's kind of hard to get the right skills if you look like, I'd say, the straight way, so people that are already working architectural stuff. So what we've been doing for the last, I'd say, year is expand other path, just like you said, actually. We do a lot of training on the job, so that is people that are interested in just getting to know enterprise architecture come to us for 4 to 6 weeks. And we try to have like a topic they bring from their original organization that is somehow connected to EA, that maybe we've been trying to work on, but didn't have the capacity. And that way, at least, transport EA knowledge to the other divisions. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it is also like, I'd say, the jump start to somebody actually taking the courage to join the team because they realize they bring something to the table, as you just said, and the other skills are actually learnable. It's not that we had some magic whatever where we found the EA knowledge. It's just a mixture of I think mindset, commitment, and experience.
So quick question then. Do you put people on, say you have a project, then you would bring somebody in and like either do a buddy system or they would actually participate in the project and then demonstrate or while they're learning?
Yeah, it's both actually. We try to have the buddy system.
That is great.
So that actually one experienced EA from the team like goes into the topic, but then we try to integrate the person in particular. I mean, most of the time it's like they actually know the topic better, but they're missing the EA methodology. So we bring that to the table, and it gives them the courage to actually, you know, take the lead in a topic, even though they didn't have that up front. So that's what we do, and it's actually working kind of well.
Connection with something they already know and master, or that they've
Yeah.
identified, so they're more likely to adhere.
Yeah, yeah. So just maybe an insight.
Thank you. That's great.
Just a couple other thoughts then to add on. I've seen organizations do like a formal rotation where people rotate out of a job and actually work in the architecture role. And it's enticing for all the reasons that you asked us about. You know, you get exposure to a lot of people, really big efforts, right? So systematic thinking. So rotations, and then also maybe a little bit of variation on what others have shared. You know, if there's someone that we can kind of add some of the architecture role to part-time, obvious example would be like a business analyst that's interested in a business architect role. You can start teaching them and getting a little bit of capacity out of them while they're still in their role and try to make it relevant as well. So.
In our company, we also have some both learning platforms and some volunteering platforms. If you want to involve in some projects, we can add the demands there, and anybody who is interested can apply for it. That's one method. But also, most of the architects in our team, because we try to select those people, are curious about learning new things. So even they don't have enough time within working hours, they are keen to learn new things. When you share with them the platforms or the opportunities like mentoring programs or so, then they can have chance to learn the things. And maybe the last thing is I try to link this with the strategies of the company and capabilities. So if we have limited time, I try to focus my team on the capability set that are really important as of that day to the company, and maybe spending less time on the ones that may be end of life in some time period. So you always need to be sure that they are upskilling in the right direction aligned with the business, or maybe they have special interest, and that's also okay. We never say any architect that you shouldn't learn this. We are very open for that. But if they need some direction because of limited time, then we need to use this time intelligently. So we have some guidance, some mentoring programs, both ways. And we are also, even we have different teams for different domains, we are flexible that if somebody wants to learn another domain, we never say that, okay, this is that domain's responsibility. We have mixed teams so that the architects can collaborate in some specific topics. Yeah,
crossover.
Exactly.
Whynde?
We have 1 minute, right? Sorry,
Okay, so thank you guys for attending, participating. This has been great. So you've got a full panel here of experts to touch, to tap, to contact in the future. The tool guru, the talent guru, everything guru, business, WIA, and certainly a practitioner that has proven herself in the industry. So I want to thank you guys for joining us, and thank you guys.
Thank you.